I was in Congo, Brazzaville. The oil city is called Point Noir. It's a coastal town. And in oil cities, everything is big. Like it's big, it's expensive, it's lavish, right? So in Congo, there's this street called Charles de Gaulle, where all the expensive things are and the nice things are. And you feel good walking along Charles de Gaulle. So I go looking for a salon to relax my hair because I could afford to go to a good salon. So the first salon I got to, very pompous place. There were fellow black people working there, but they boldly told me that they couldn't work on my hair. I'm like, why? Because les chauffeurs d'Afrique, it's black hair for Africans, so they only work on Caucasian hair. I'm like, okay. So it was owned by a French person, and in Congo and that French world, it's quite hard. It's quite racist. So I was essentially kicked out. So I go to the next salon, still on Charles de Gaulle, very pompous place, and I'm told the same thing. The third salon I go to, I'm pissed at this point. And the lady says, Madam, go near the market. You'll find a salon that can work on your hair. The market is about 1.5 kilometers out of the city, right? So why should I go outside the metropolitan city to have my hair worked on? So I go to a barber shop, cut off my hair, completely bald. So I come from having good hair to having, the way they shave our heads in P1? Zero. I was pissed. I go back to work. My hair starts growing from scratch. I decide I'm never going to relax my hair again. 4 months down the road, the hair needs, to be softened for you to comb because it's now hard. So I start looking around for any oils, conditioners. Then I quickly realized the oils on the market are for Indians. They smell so Indian. They just don't sit in the hair, right? Then the conditioners are so light. They're not for our hair. You put it in and then your hair instead dries up instead of, remaining moisturized. So I start looking around for products. Then I realized on the Congolese shelves, 98% of the produce is imported. So I start asking myself, why? Right? 98% eggs, yogurt, water, meat, chicken, name it. In Uganda, you go to our shelves, it's very difficult to find 70%, 50% of produce imported, right? There's always some little thing that's Ugandan being pushed in there somewhere. But in Congo, it was different. So again, I start questioning myself, where's the African in all this? Then I start researching the oil history in Congo. For 70 years, the money is being repatriated. And I'm here working. I'm one of the people who is being paid heavily to take it out. So I start feeling like a thief, right, in my job. Then I start looking for products for African people. At the time, the natural hair movement was a thing, right? So people are making products for Africans. They're using raw materials from Africa, but they're not making the products in Africa. So again, where's the African in all this? So they're taking the raw materials, making the product, and selling it back to us.
Expensively.
How do we benefit? So because my problem at that time was the fact that I didn't have quality products made by an African in Africa using our raw materials, I decided to be an example. I wanted very good products for myself, products that I would pay $50 to buy, and products that would compete on the global market favorably. But they had to be made in Africa, by Africans, for Africans, using African raw materials for Africa and the world. That's my mandate. So I did the business plan, looked for incubation. Whenever I would get holiday, I would come and look for sustainable raw materials. Got a team. When 5 products were made that were market ready after 2 years, I quit and came and started the journey. So that's my why. And until I see the Livara brand really at the level of the L'Oreal's, I will not stop. For me, that is success. right? So until we have a brand that is not driven by a European or an American, but is driven by us, for us, made by us, on our soil, for the world, I will not stop. That's where I'm going.
Wow. You know, sometimes we look at ourselves and we think that we've done enough, but we haven't. And
which is why I asked you, define success.
for me, the success is redefined right here again. And I agree. I think success for us, young people starting businesses, you know, because I think for me, I look at my milestones daily, given also the challenges that, you know, as a young person I'm facing to build a business. If I can successfully put something into the market and someone pays for it, for me, that's my first level of success.
Absolutely.
And that drives me to continue to attain more versions of success. And I think that, you know, Livara is quite successful so far, and there is more success to be attained, like you have said, you know, being at the level where you can compete with brands like L'Oreal and, you know, give them a run for their money. I'm actually all for it. So now, moving into some of, you know, your good days and your bad days, their wins and their losses.
Oh yeah.
And just walk us through that. Like, what has the journey been like for you? You know, trying to raise money, trying to get people to buy, trying to find, you know, a product that represents Black people, you as a Black woman in Africa, a product that works for you and that is for you. What has that been like?
There are usually more losses than wins. The wins are very few. And yes, I applaud you when you say that for any win that you have, clap for yourself. It's important. When I was starting out, Livara was actually my plan B. My plan A was to extract raw shea butter and sell it in bulk. It was seemingly faster, easier money to make, right? But I didn't have the money for the machines. I was supposed to get them through my incubation program at URI, the Uganda Industrial Research Institute. However, because of the elections in the next year, they drained money from the ministries, and so my machines never showed up to today. It was painful because I had banked a lot on those machines. But remember, we had made products before I left my job. So because my plan A, which was the sweetest, failed, I'm like, okay, I have plan B. Let's release the products. But it turns out that my plan B has worked out, right? How we started, after making these products, the first time we went onto the market was at the Bride and Groom Expo in June 23rd, 2015. So the expo starts at 9 a.m., gates are open. We had a beautifully designed stall, but when I look back, it was really bad. But it was the best we could do at that time. It's so embarrassing. I hide those pictures. Anyway, it was so dark. Anyway, so I was next to these people who had fleet, different types of fleets for hire for weddings. So people were passing by, no one was buying. Then the lady next to me felt pity on me and said, "My daughter, what are you selling?" So I tell her what we are selling. And she bought from us a Mujisha butter, a small tin, 10,000 shillings. And she paid for it. That's the very first product we ever sold. But after she paid, we sold out and then made the investment that we had, made to be there. Right? So when I went to the expo, I really just wanted to sell one product. Like you mentioned, sell a product. My aim was, if someone can invest in my brand, for sure other people will invest. So when this lady took pity on me, and bought a product. We made about 2.3 million that day selling products, which was quite good, right? And it's been increasing since then. But then also, there's a place where I really wanted us to have our first shop, on this Senana building on Buganda Road. When I came back from Congo, the building was still under construction. It took them 1.5 years to finish. Every week, because I really strongly felt that my spirit had led me to this place, I knew our first liver shop would be there. I met the owner of the building, met her family. I would go to the place, push the wheelbarrow, helping people to construct because we are working on, the liver shop. 1.5 years later, I introduced the brand to this lady throughout. They even started buying some things. So when the building was ready to be opened, I went and asked for my space because I thought we had an understanding. Yeah, a good relationship. I had worked for nothing. Anyway, so this lady boldly told me that, I will quote in Luganda, "Ebizigo byo biri mu bikebe ebiddugavu tebijja ttunda. Njagala omuntu nga bata abantu ababaddewo benjagala mu kizimbe kyange. Funa awalala." In other words, my products were not good enough to be on her shelf. On her building, find somewhere else to be. 1.5 years. I didn't cry. I got on a border, went to Chisementi. There's this Sudiri's building, the cube, that was coming up. I saw a space I liked. They cheated me. I paid $1,500 per month. I paid 6 months. It was too expensive. But I said I have to start, right? 2 weeks later, we opened up our first shop. From the first shop, we made, from making monthly sales of about 3 million shillings, we made monthly sales of about 27 million in our first month just by having a location, right? Which was very good. Then from there, clients started coming in. It really picked up. Then we opened up our first salon. Why? Because the clients wanted us to open up a salon. And again, that shot up revenue, like by a huge chunk, which was very good. So there have been losses, lots of them. Even our first Ntinda location, we're paying 16.5 million shillings per month in rent. How we managed to do that, I honestly don't know. I really don't know. For over 3 years, when you calculate it, I could have, put up some building somewhere or a factory somewhere. But we were doing that because of location, all these beautiful places. The landlord refused to, refurbish his building. We used to do that for him. They used to steal our water, our power. Literally every day it was a fight. I couldn't sit in my office because when I sat, the people who were stealing water, the building had gotten a crack. So the roof kept on, the white things would pour on you like the whole day. It's like, what the heck am I doing in this place? So when lockdown came in and we had to move, I was like, bye. Left, and we got another location where we were paying 4.5 million shillings per month. Imagine. It was a huge saving, right? So there are many losses, but the losses sometimes end up in good things. Also, I've been cheated raising money. You get Ugandan guys who believe that they can handle, the investment. They give you some little money, you give them shares. 9 months down the road, they are not delivering on what they promised, So I kicked them out. They took me to court, sued me for 1 billion shillings. So you fight, you learn, right? Let them go, pay them off, of course, for a fairish value. But then also I start learning, you don't write everything in email. Like, it's a lesson. There are very many losses and down points, but you just have to remember where you're going. So I paint this picture and I keep dreaming, hoping that we will, get there at some point. But 8 years is a long time of so many pitfalls and very beautiful wins as well, right? So we came from 4 people that we're employing, now 112. We have 30 refugees that we have literally transformed. Now we have 100,000 shea farmers we're working with, as in, yeah. So it's been a good journey, but I want more. It's not enough. It's good enough for Uganda, but I need Uganda out there, you know? So we have to keep fighting and moving. So yeah, there are many losses. That's just a sample. If I sat you down, you'd wonder why I'm still working.
I think me and you need a coffee date, and we first laugh about these things on the sidelines. So you said, how many shea farmers now?
Oh, we will have profiled 100,000 by December. As of today, 7 a.m., we had 12,819
shea farmers.
Yes, who are on our platform. I'll become a fintech at some point. So I'll learn from you.
The future is looking good. It's looking good. So, the shea farmers, what was the dream here?
Impact. I need to see lives transformed. I need to know that this person was getting 200,000 from the shea tree this year, rather from the trees that they have. In year 3, they are earning 1 million shillings. And it's us giving them that money. What does this mean? Their lives change, right? We already have some agents who are helping us profile. Someone has bought 2 goats and a cow already from very little money that we give them every month, every week to profile farmers. So if someone can use 215,000 shillings they make in a week to transform themselves and think bigger by buying a goat every time they get money, and then also investing in a cow, what if there are, 50 others like him? At least out of the 100,000, if we can get 100 people doing that, there'll be a ripple effect, right? Because they will share their stories and they will transform the rest of the people. So for me, it's about impact. Yes, we are making these products, but the last person must benefit. I don't want to be the same story of just taking from people and not giving back and not seeing them change. It's why we are intentionally investing in financial literacy for starters. Then the whole digital thing, leave no one behind. I'm intentional on it. Why? I actually need them to supply the raw materials if I'm to grow. For me, that's a no-go area. But also as we are growing, can't they grow, right? So if I've increased your revenue from 200K to 800,000, what are you doing about your life
The kids go to school
to change? Exactly. And then also we educate some kids. My dream is to have people educated from P1 all the way to university, and then they plow back into Livara. For me, that's a good story. So we have 7 that we started with in 2015. The oldest is, I think, he did S4 last year. So he's in S5 or I think he's in S5 this year. I'm not sure when they started. I'm off, but he did S4 last year and he passed, right? So having such stories of transformation, sorry, let me switch off my phone. I should have done this a long time ago.
So guys, prepare your questions. If you want to ask any questions, prepare them. We will be opening the floor up to you guys very, very shortly. I hope you're enjoying the conversation, picking up a few things, learning a lot.
Yeah, so anyway, for me I need to see change, right? And I must feel it. Without that, then I left my job for nothing, right? So it's a cycle. I need to see it happen. So the shea farmers, because they are quite one of the most impoverished in our country and in the world generally, they've suffered a lot. They've been exploited a lot. Even just getting them to agree to be onboarded, they had this issue of, you NGOs have come here before, you've taken our time or you've taken our names, you're not giving back anything to us. So when we started buying from them and paying them for their produce, intentionally, right? they started appreciating what we are doing, right? So for me, I really desperately need to see that change. And I need it to be attributed to Livara. So it's a story that I'm building, and I'm patient.
Yeah. Yes, that's patience. I think I agree with you in so many ways why plowing back to the grassroots level is very important, and that point where you said that, you know, just going back to the farmers and asking them to participate, and they have all of these quarrels with other people who've been there before, who've abandoned them, and basically, you know, just taken their information and used them as an impact statistic to get money. I think that's like the most vulgar things corporates have done to the grassroots level, and I'm actually glad that this is something Livara is doing, because I also know the struggle of, you know, managing data for some of these organizations. It's very difficult to document things at the last mile, and this is something that ShareCard is today actively working on to make sure that the technology to do this is actually readily available and easy to use. But yeah, I think it's a very incredible story that you have to share in terms of your growth as an individual, because coming from a place where you were mining oil, you studied something else, probably you had envisioned your life not being this way, wherever you are, in terms of your growth as a person, how have you evolved from the time you thought about, I need to do something about this problem, to the point where I'm actually doing pretty good solving this problem? Along that way, what are some of the hard lessons that you've had to learn, some of the things, the skills you've had to pick up that have been valuable, that have brought you to this place?
I've been humbled, and I've learned that when I was growing up, I was always the best. PLE had a 4, best girl in the district. S4, of course, 8 in 8. Then I think I got 11 in 10. Literature let me down with a D2. I was on government scholarship. I had a first class. I was part of the team that built the first, this Kira EV that you see. I literally designed the DC-DC converter, the dashboard. So I've always been fast-paced and achieving, right? Even in the oil and gas industry, I'm paid $10,000 average a month. I was used to, I do this, I get this. There is no way in between, right? But in business, in Uganda, it's a different story.
In Uganda?
So,
keyword.
It's military training. So I've got to learn that, one, your degrees and your excellence in the past do not really matter, right? It's relationships, talking to people. In the past, I used to be a bit of a snob, right? I only talk to you if you can really speak my language. If you're not smart enough, oh my God, I don't have time for you because you bore me, right? But now I understand that the people who actually move us from one point to another point may not necessarily be the smartest intellectually, but they're street smart and they understand the language of the streets, right? Which is more important than the books that I may have had. I've learned to be patient. Patience was never my virtue. If something didn't work out my way in the time I needed it to work out, how I needed it to work out, I'd easily get quite pissed. But I've been really humbled to know that you need to work with human beings, with people, to get them to the level you need to get to, right? I've also learned that not everyone that says they can do something is telling the truth. Life is not black and white, and that's the way we grew up, right? I was in a Catholic school for 13 years, single sex, literally nuns every day. So I knew black and white. I didn't know gray. But I've learned that people lie, right? Someone will take your money, lie to you, leave you broke. So it's been a difficult training field, right? I've had to literally step back and look at myself as an individual. Yes, I'm not perfect, but then also the journey of raising money. You're looking for money. It's now, I have a factory that I want to build. We need several $1 million. But I've learned that I have to go back to the drawing table if I can't get it, because I also have criteria for who I want to get it from. So if I can't get it from the person I need to get it from, how do I scale back and look within and start from scratch again, right? And for me that is painful, because there are times I go back to bed and I'm like, but God, really, I've moved this. Why should I go back? It feels like I'm going back to 8 years before of, hustling through that. But it's a story again. I've had to understand that it's okay. There's a difference. We have our own 4 acres of land. We have actually bought them. It's in our name. We have drawings that have been approved by the district for the company, right? So I have to look back and appreciate the journey instead of just focusing on the myopic thing. My factory, I don't have my millions, I'm a failure, I'm this and this. Yet we have a cumulative annual growth rate of 120%. Who does that? Right? So we've grown, literally. So I've had to learn to sit back and appreciate. There are days in 2015, actually one day in 2016 when we didn't make sales. One day like this. And I vowed, never shall there ever be a day when Livara doesn't make a sale, even if it's 2,000 shillings. So that one day always reminds me, Maxi, you're making sales in millions per day, right? Thank God that is going on. So if you're doing that, can you scale back on your ambitions and save for your factory if you don't get it? When the money comes, they will just push you forward, but don't rely on waiting for the person to come and lift you up. So I've had to just learn to always go back to the drawing board. Every month, I literally sit down and analyze, what have we done right? What have we failed at? Who needs to be fired? Who needs to be hired? Who needs to be promoted? So it's a constant journey of sitting down, rethinking, right? And then engaging the team. Because in the past also, I felt, oh, this is my baby, I have to run it alone. But please, life gives you chiboko real hard. So you have to build your team intentionally so that when you go away, they lift it up, right? So right now I have my leadership team who literally, I look at them and I laugh at them behind closed doors because I see them in my position 3 years ago. They are struggling, saying, but we are not making these sales, we're not doing this. But that's how I was before. And I cannot save them from those hassles because I want to see them get themselves out of that. But it's beautiful to see someone actually beat themselves up for the company instead of it being you, right? So again, there are things to be thankful for. So just going back, doing a retrospective and being grateful for the steps forward. Yeah. That's how much I think I have changed. And those around me claim I have changed. Then intentionally taking myself away. I don't need to talk to everyone. If you need to be by yourself, be by yourself. Don't go being everywhere. Be intentional on who you interact with, how you interact, and how you treat yourself as well. Yeah.
I totally hear you on the bit about, being intentional about who you have in your space and who you let go. I think being a startup founder, that is one of the most important things you will ever do for yourself. Because as Black people, we have this neighborhood community effect that, I can't leave my people behind. And personally, I believe that, if I'm going to help you, I need to leave you behind because I can't carry you along if you're not pulling your weight. At the end of the day, you need to be okay with leaving people behind. Maybe come back and check on them if you've been able to build the strength to be able to accommodate them, and you've built that knowledge base that you can share with them to be able to get to where you are. But you can't do that if you stay in the same place they are. I think that is actually very, very important. I mean, it just takes me back to the black tax. How black families keep their kids in the same space because, we expect them to carry all of these things on behalf of the family, forgetting that this person has to forge a path first before they can afford to carry all of these responsibilities. So I really hear you on leaving people behind, not abandoning them, but leaving them behind. You've raised investment and you've been quite successful on the ones you've been successful on. What would you say has been the most important decisions you've made about how to present your product and your business in front of an investor that has, helped them see that this is what I want to put money in?
The investor being my parents who have land titles that I need to use to borrow money. No, I have not raised money from outside investors yet. It's been homegrown. Everything is our initial 75K making us money now. But yes, even my parents who loaned us their titles that we borrow money to expand, we had to present the business to them. So I've always, from the time I conceptualized what I needed to do, I was organized with my paperwork. I don't venture into something I don't fully understand, right? So I needed to do the business plan. I needed to research. I needed to make sure that the numbers speak to me and are attractive for me. So from my business plan, I keep improving it, right? Working on our projections, the Excel sheet, intentionally reaching out to people who will scrutinize what I have planned. But Maxi, your projections are way out of this world. Can you scale down and, do things this other way? But then also remembering that I have to be ambitious, right? So I regularly have to present to my parents and my family. Why? Because they are my support system. And they're quite smart. So when I have, my sister Terry has worked for the likes of Google, Factory, Building Ventures. If you give her information and it's fake, she'll literally tell you, why are you bullshitting me? Give me something better. This is someone who's 4 years younger than me. Like, go back, give me something that is worth my time. So I have a brother who has started a fleet. These trucks that transport copper in Zambia, they have a fleet of about 700 trucks. And he's co-invested with some Chinese. Now also, if I'm to present to him about my company and it's bullshit, he'll wonder what's wrong with you. So I have to always step up my game. What's new? How are people looking at things every day? And then also revise what I'm doing. Right now, we have a CFO. He's external. I cannot afford to pay him. He's very smart. So every time I'm stuck, say, with the numbers, or I need to revise something, I engage him. We spend literally sleepless nights just going through the numbers. What could go wrong? What can we change to make things better? When we were applying for the 500,000 grant that we have, is that an investment? It's not. So we got a $500,000 grant from UNCDF. It was our very first grant, meanwhile. And we got it again from looking at our plan and our numbers, right? But that grant is also very difficult. It's a milestone grant. So you have to deliver everything before they refund you for the money you have spent, right? But it's building a supply chain, which will build into our growth, stepwise, right? So it's grant money is very difficult money. I do not encourage people to. I'm very grateful to UNCDF, but I don't encourage people to go into grant things. It's difficult money because it's a lot of paperwork. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of, like, it takes the life out of you, all right? But yes, reviewing the plans, because even to them, the team that we work with is always asking questions. How are you going to go about this? Which people are you going to involve? Then there are things that I need to learn these days. Is it gender, something, the whole gender lens issue, right? Because there's a gender lens perspective in our project. How are you going to approach the issues that are happening? Then there's monitoring and evaluation. I thought it was an easy thing, but there's so many metrics that you have to be aware of, even if you're hiring a team. Because also, if you don't understand what this team of experts is telling you, they will bullshit you. Yeah. So you have to appear like you know better than them. Kumbe, you're learning from them every day. So it's just a lot of, learning and revising of the documents we have to be better. Also, every time we've been trying to raise money for 1 year right now for our factory. It's not an easy process. But for me, every time I approach someone and then they tell me to go back and look at an aspect of the business, I always get like a light bulb comes on, right? And then I start thinking, but do I really need you? I think I can do this. So you go back and you revise. And for sure we can self-finance, right? But there was this whole scare of, oh my God, we need investment, we need investors, we need this and this. But we can fund ourselves from the growth if we are very strategic. Then the other thing about, again, investment, we as Africans, we really need to be intentional on supporting each other in this journey of growth. Especially if I were wealthy and I had money, honestly speaking, I would not treat people the way I have been treated by majority of my fellow Africans who doubt my plan even if I have clear experience, right? And numbers that show this girl is onto something. But it's from my fellow people that I've received the biggest, yes, that's the right word, pushback. And they always tell you you can't. And then there's always downplaying of the vision, and your revenue and what you have done. I really wish we would change. We have been made to think and behave that way, but we can change that narrative, right? Because we have gone through this, let us try to do better by those who come after us. Dangote is where he is because one of his relatives gave him $500,000 to start. Honestly speaking, Nigerians help each other out. Indians have passed everyone because of that synergy, right? So why can't we do the same for each other? Why do we always have to be jealous, always bewitching, always, trying to poke holes in each other's plans instead of, good criticism that builds us, right? And actually supporting people. So we need to really change that narrative. So anyway, when I get the billions of dollars, I will change that narrative, even along the way.